Hey everybody, it's Dan Scott, and today we're actually going to be joined by Todd De Voe. Todd De Voe is a longtime practitioner of emergency management. He's actually who introduced me to podcasting. He agreed to come on to Theory into Practice to discuss a very important topic, and then we're going to ultimately transition to the second half, where we're going to be talking about leadership and how we apply it, and additionally bring back in that topic, which the topic of today that Todd is going to talk about is how do we become our own best resource? So first off, Todd, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming on my show for once.
Dan, it's always a pleasure to see you, my friend, and I think you're doing great work, so I appreciate it.
I appreciate you saying that. A lot of what we do, we agree on a lot of things, and I think driving the profession and the professional forward is a common goal that we share, and one that we want to help continue to build on the professional. And I feel like this topic of becoming our own best resource is a big one. So how can we push, or what advice do you have for the emergency management professional or emergency manager, however they prefer to be called, to help them become their own best resource?
Be curious. Be curious all the time. So you can never ever stop learning. If you notice behind me, I have stacks of books, and that's not even a quarter of the books that I own. Dan, I know that you're an avid reader as well. Last year, Dan and I challenged each other. It's last year or the year before last. Challenged each other to read 52 books in the year, and it was hard, right? I mean, it was like it wasn't easy, but we did it, right? And we got through the process of reading the books, and they don't have to be like 500-page, War and Peace type books. But they're going to increase your knowledge in various different areas, and not just in emergency management, right? You have to take a look at other areas: leadership, business continuity, project management. Sometimes read some books for fun, in a sense, like Raven Rock behind me here. That one there talks about it's a history of emergency management. In essence, it takes a look at World War II, post World War II America during the Cold War, and them setting up continuity government locations, things like that are just kind of interesting. But what it does is, if you read these books and read it in the mindset of what you do as a professional, as emergency management and leadership in those areas, you get lessons from everything that you pick up. I am not one to read fiction necessarily. I don't mind it, right? I like movies and things like this, but I tend to use my time reading nonfiction books. But even if you read a fiction book, there are things in there in movies that you can pull leadership lessons from. And the other day, a friend of mine turned me on to a TV show on Hulu. I just talked about it this morning on my podcast. And it's called The Bear. And it's about a restaurant in Chicago. And this guy comes outside of the restaurant. It was his brother's restaurant. And he's this world famous chef. As a young man, gets put into all the magazines and stuff, and really makes a splash. But he comes to Chicago to work at his family's sandwich shop, right? And really tries to change the sandwich shop around, and it's dysfunctional. And he uses principles of leadership to change what that is. And you can pick up those principles of leadership by watching a TV show, a 30-minute TV show about a restaurant, right? So that's what you have to do to be your own best resource, is put yourself in the mindset of what you do as a profession and see if you can glean great information off of even fiction shows. So that's a long answer to a short question.
No, that is a great response. One of the things that I really am an advocate about as well is, yeah, being curious is great, and reading, and but taking courses, and it's not just books either. You can read articles. You can read news clippings. They don't have to be full articles. You can just have a discussion with a fellow professional, or someone who doesn't even necessarily be in the same line of work as you, and gain insight into from a different outside point of view, and kind of and take the time to actually think upon that, expand your mind a little bit on that. What's important too, as well, I want to point out to what you said there, Todd, is uh, a lot of it is reflection, right?
Right.
There's a level of reflection that has to take place in order to get better at anything. And watching a show like that and being able to then think back on it and reflect upon it, and how you can not only think what skills were implemented, but what skills can you implement yourself
Yeah.
in that. And with emergency management, and one of the areas in which I'm trying to really get a good argument on, is that we don't need to continue to be uh, good at everything
No.
and not great at anything. It's we need to really be able to dial it in and be able to claim a niche in emergency management and own it. And it's hard to do when you are a person of one in a shop of one.
Yeah.
But that brings me back to my point: is just because you're a shop of one, or a person of one in your department, doesn't mean you're alone. But you can be your own best resource by knowing how to interact and communicate with others and engage them in a way that they benefit you as well. There's a level of partnership and collaboration that could take place without feeling that you're alone in doing your job. So how do we in being our own best resource learn to gather the resources around us?
So I've said this before, and then I've said this multiple times, is do not sit. Excuse me. Ooh, do not sit in your office. Don't come to work, close your door, and start pounding on those computer keys, because you can write a plan, but a plan without having people interacting and collaborating with creating that plan is nothing but a document that they're going to put on that binder on that shelf behind you, Dan. Um, you need to get out and meet all your stakeholders. Now, Dan and I both worked in higher education emergency management, and to be honest with you, I really thought it was going to be an easier time than working at the city government. And man, was I completely wrong on that, and my lessons uh, that I had to teach myself about higher education. So anyway, you go through and you meet the 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 president of the union, right? Whether it's the student union, the that too, but the teachers senate, right? The faculty senate, the classified senate, the student senate, right? Go and meet the athletic teams, because they all have needs as well, right? And they have actually a lot of resources as well, right? Know the facilities guys really well, right? Know who they are and what they do and what they bring to the table. Know your administration, whether it's the president of the university or the college, the board, get to meet them. Make yourself a valuable resource to all of those people out there, because at the end of the day, we hope, and I would venture to say 99.9% of the people that work in higher education are really there student centric, right? And so you let them know, hey, look, I'm here for the students as well, and part of their education process is for us to be able to keep a safe environment for them, and have them understand that you're there not to create walls and barriers for them to have to go around or get over or through, right? You're there to help them navigate those issues that come up to place, and also to keep students in classroom. And we take a look at, say, COVID, for instance, that popped up, right? 6 months before COVID popped up, I actually had this conversation with the vice president of instruction at a school, and I was telling her, I said, hey, you need to get all of the faculty to put their courses, excuse me, online, even if they're not teaching online, right? Because there's a lot of pushback for teaching online, right? Canvas is the system that we have access to for free. Have them, put the stuff on Canvas. And she said, no, they don't want to do it. And I was really disappointed in the fact that there's so much pushback on this. And then, 6 months later, COVID breaks out, and, obviously I was proven to be right in my assessment of having to have stuff ready to go. So have those conversations though, even if they're not come out the way you want, at least they understand that you're thinking and leaning in a way that's supporting students and at the colleges. Same thing with your city government, right? Meet with the Chamber of Commerce, right? Meet with your business development person or economic development person with the city, because at the end of the day, when there's a large scale disaster that goes through your city, right? It's those economic bases that are really going to be able to bring the city back together, right? In other words, we need to have a tax base coming in to be able to pay for things that we are servicing, such as fire and police, right? And if businesses go away after a disaster, right, that reduces the ability to have a tax base for you to be able to bring those services together. So there's that circle that needs to be together. And so including business in your plan, right, is critical. They understand that the city is not there to get in the way. They're there to help the resident and help the business owner recover from that disaster. And then you have buy-in specifically. And so, yes, you might be a department of one, but the resources that you gain by shaking hands and sitting down and having, coffee with the chamber president is invaluable information and resources that you'll get back 100-fold.
Yeah, amazing response on that. And I want to just touch on one thing about that as well is, and you touched on it, the getting the buy-in. You'd be surprised at how many. In this, we're talking about education. We'll also talk about. I worked at city county, so in dealing with firefighters and police officers and EMS and other departments, HR, whatever. How many people don't necessarily understand what emergency management is?
Yeah.
How they can actually collaborate with and work with you, and how beneficial it is not only to them but to you as well. So to be able to do that and then bring it to have a resources that you can pick and pull from the resources you have to educate the people that you're educating in a manner that best suits them, brings advocates into your life, brings you being your own best resource by having all this knowledge and building these partnership and this collaboration. You bring these people as advocates into your job, that you're not the only one who's saying how important it is and how justified it is that you need funding and training and allocated resources. You have others doing it for you as well. And that makes you more valuable. It also makes what you offer more valuable.
I want to go back to my books here for a second, because I think you will agree on this, is I read from all different disciplines. And if on this side of my bookshelf, I have economic books, books, disaster economics is critical, right? But I read the Freakonomics book many years ago and I kept it on my bookshelf. I have the Economist dictionary over there. So that's a critical. In the middle there's some business books, Good to Great, Jim Collins books over there. You're It is in there. If you just look at the ones right there. And of course, Nicholas Taleb, who I have been doing a lot of reading from. So it's all sorts of different ideas, but why? Why is it critical that you have this information? Well, because when you sit down with somebody from a different discipline, from business, that you can talk intelligently about economic issues, right? And understanding how it impacts them, how having no electricity for 32 hours, true story on that one, impacts the ice cream manufacturer, right? And it's not just the fact that they can't make ice cream, it's that they have sanitation issues that they have to keep up with, that they could actually close down the entire factory if they do not have power back to them. So it's not just, oh, poor ice cream guy can't make ice cream, he's going to be down a couple of pints. No. They could be shut down for months just for a short period of not having electricity running through that building, right? And so if they know that you're there for them and understanding their woes, right, that occur if they don't have power, and the public health issues that are occurred with that, then they're going to listen to you, right? If you walk in there and you don't understand manufacturing at all, why would they want to participate with you? So having that knowledge is critical. And again, that makes you a resource, right? And you don't have to know it. You don't have to know everything about it. You just have to know enough to be able to have a intelligent conversation and to understand what their concerns are when they bring that to you and tell you what their problems are, and you go, got it, and this is how we can help you, right?
Having working knowledge can definitely get you a long way. And this kind of roundabout way leads into a really great book. It's an old book, and it's a classic book by Dale Carnegie, Winning Friends and Influencing People. If you learn how to do that, and you do that correctly, and you apply that continuously, you will not only develop your resources, you will gain multiple other resources outside of yourself that will not only, and you ultimately as well gain a sense of redundancy that you build in without even really trying to, because you build a team of individuals, of like-minded individuals, so that if for whatever reason you decided to leave or take a vacation, you have people there who know what they're doing, why they're doing it, why it's important.
Yeah, I gotta tell you something. It's kind of a long story, but so CERT volunteers, a community emergency response team volunteers. So when I was with the city of Dana Point, they didn't have a CERT program when I first got there, and the city council decided that they wanted to have a CERT program. And so I was like, okay, well, we're gonna do it. And so, but I said, we're gonna do this in a way that we're not gonna get every Yahoo wannabe, off the street, wanting to slap on a green shirt and respond, to things. So I put these not in a sense of purpose, like in a way to discourage people, but to actually find people who are really truly interested in being volunteers, right? So they had to take ICS 100 and 200 online. They had to take 700, 800 online. A couple other training that they had to do, and I was like, all right, no one's gonna do all this stuff. I'm never gonna have volunteers, but that's okay. Well, lo and behold, all of a sudden these people show up with all those certificates in their hands saying, hey, we took all these courses. And I'm like, okay, well, I got a volunteer program now. We started with, I don't know, it was like 5 or 8 people. And so we built that program from zero to one of the most successful CERT programs countywide, in where I'm at. And and it wasn't a vacuum. It wasn't just Todd De Voe, and the city of Dana Point, right? Reaching out to my neighbors at San Clemente and San Capistrano, Laguna Beach, Huntington Beach, Anaheim. We all started coming together and like, hey, what can we do better? What can we do? And we created this program in Orange County called the CERT Mutual Aid Program, right? And this is where the success comes in. So we had this large flyer, and we actually utilized CERT for the first time in Orange County in this way. And that's what that little plaque right there is for, not the Dana Point one, but the one below is from that fire. And it was so successful that I guess Orange County decided to have a fire the next year too, right? So we could just test it again. And so we were invited to go speak to Congress on a panel to discuss citizen corps programs and why they're critical for communities. And we helped keep the citizen corps funding in the budget because they were looking at cutting it. And I really truly believe in these volunteer programs that they're going to make a difference in your community because, number one, they're vested, right? And number two, you can't ever have enough people during disasters, right? And having trained people that you can trust, that you can turn around to. And this other side of that success is some of them, after I've left, stayed in contact with me. And then some of them have moved out of state and are in Tennessee, and Texas, a couple places, and they've had created programs in their jurisdictions that they moved to because they're so happy what happened in here in Orange County, California, and they're successful down there. So that little seed that we planted for disaster preparedness programs such as CERT in our communities in Orange County, the smallest county in the country, I think it's definitely in California, it's a tiny little county, has grown across this nation and has done great work. So these are things you can be proud of, and you think it's when you're sitting in the computer just pounding on your keyboard, you'd never think that impact that you have in your small town or your small jurisdiction or at your college or where you're at is going to have this lasting national impact, and it does. And I think that's an exciting part of our job.
Yeah, it is very amazing. This has been a fantastic conversation, and I appreciate you coming on and talking about this with me. We're gonna round out this segment, and when we come back, we are going to talk about leadership, its application, and how we continue to drive the EM profession and professional forward towards leadership and more of a prosperous future. Thank you, Todd, for joining me in this segment, and we'll be back shortly.